gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day.
It is Bobby Bonilla Day. It's one of my favorite days in baseball. We'll maybe get to that and why we call this Bobby Bonilla Day at some point during the broadcast. But let them know what else they're in for.
We'll talk about, we'll recap day one of the NBA free agency. We'll have our boy 24KG at 8 o'clock to recap a busy weekend and Monday Night Raw last night. We'll talk about some NFL news, some WNBA, even some hockey if we get to it. And our boy Brian the Bandit Cobb, who joined us yesterday live from
Alabama.
Yes, Alabama. He did. He made the 86 kilogram weight, and
Nice.
you can follow him. It's the Brian Cobb MMA. He is fighting for the Fire and Police Olympic Games, and he wrote me this morning and said he's in a tournament with 8 other fighters. So hopefully he'll be the first and only to carry on the Tulare firefighters in the Olympics.
Just thinking about that, though, he could be the first ever in the area to come back with a gold medal. First ever to represent the area, as he is from the Exeter fire department, I believe, is where he usually works. And as he said, I was just you shouldn't say worried. I was more concerned that potentially the work schedule and obviously the training schedule for this would be too grueling. But
on top of having 3 daughters and them serving him Whoppers.
If there are the biggest badasses in the world, man, cops, firefighters, they got to be in the running.
So we'll keep an eye out on that and give you updates. But you can always call or text in anytime, 661-842-2000.
But we got to get into the NBA because free agency started yesterday. And if you're looking at if you're watching the stream right now and looking, that right there is all the stuff that we have to talk about. This is about 8 to 10 pages of just nothing but moves that have been done in the NBA since yesterday. And it's been an incredibly busy start to the free agency market, which everybody knew. I mean, these guys have been talking with teams for probably well over a week now. They're probably figuring out the ins and outs of what their contracts are going to look like financially and stuff like that. Some players have made some interesting moves, some not so much. We kind of saw them coming. The big man market right now, though, has shifted, and unfortunately for you Laker fans, not a single one has chosen the Lakers to come or to be their next place of residence. Well, I guess Brook Lopez did, but for the other team.
Yes, the wrong LA team.
And, that shocks me because now I'm sitting, how is Brook Lopez going to justify going and playing for the Clippers and being a backup to Zubac?
And he signed a 2-year deal.
That's essentially what you're going to be, because if last year is any indication, I do not believe that Zubac will be losing that starting spot anytime soon. So that was a very interesting move to me. But we have other places that these guys have chosen. Clint Capella will be headed back to Houston. Did you see how long that deal is? Because I did miss that one.
That one is a 3-year, $21.5 million deal.
Great choice for the Houston Rockets to help get some big man help down there to back up the young core that they just built around in Sengun and Smith. But you're going to see a lot of Houston's going to be paying for a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, they also signed
very active
Dorian Finney-Smith to a 4-year deal yesterday. And, Houston has been very active. And Brian Windhorst had this to say about Houston.
The Rockets are on an organizational hot streak. They are drafting well. They are trading well. They are using free agency well. They are negotiating contracts well. They've been very active the last couple of days, and not just with Kevin Durant, but also getting Jabari Smith Jr. into a new contract, getting Fred VanVleet into a new contract. Tonight, they signed Clint Capella to a 3-year deal, which was a surprise that it will backfill them. They extended Steven Adams. When you play in the Western Conference, you got to have size. You got to try to beat Nikola Jokic. They've retained Steven Adams and added Clint Capella. They've got Alperen Şengün. They are really, really doing good moves. And then their development of Tari Eason, of Amen Thompson has really been going. If you're going to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, you've got to win across the board.
Right.
Yeah.
The Rockets are piling up W.
Honestly, with these moves that the Rockets have been making, they're really the most exciting team, I think, in the West to go play for. You have a great coach in Ime Udoka who just understands ball and understands how to connect with these players. He has also been at the forefront of making these moves happen. Apparently, he was one of the biggest advocates for making the Kevin Durant trade happen. So I think that there are a lot of players that are just really intrigued with what Houston is building down there right now. And honestly, as the number 2 team in the West last year going into the playoffs, there's not a lot to believe, or there's not a lot of reason to believe that they're not going to be back at that level. I know a lot of people are saying that the Kevin Durant trade, but kind of was a even trade when you look at it offensively, because obviously Kevin can score just as much as Jalen Green did when he was playing for them. I just need to see if you can put together something in the front court, not as well as the back court. I need to see some guard play here. And honestly, Fred VanVleet is obviously one of the best point guards to start for you, but I need to see somebody sit alongside him. I know right now it's probably going to be Amen Thompson, because that's the young player that kind of just fits the mold for you. And you could put Kevin at the 3, Smith at the 4, maybe Şengün at the 5. But like they said, they still have Steven Adams and now Clint Capella to add to the group. So we will see how they move around these pieces to make the best possible roster to make a run at this championship next year. Do you think they have the roster space now, or at least the players on the roster to compete with the Thunder, though?
Oh, yeah. I think they do, and they still have a ton of salary cap, so I don't think they're done.
No.
I mean, we're only going through day 1, and after that Durant trade, I think they're definitely putting themselves in a situation where they can be in that at least conversation.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see who else. Obviously the guards, and see, another guard that was kind of the one with the Durant trade. It made me scratch my head because what they had to give up for it. But seeing them being so active in the first day, it kind of brings, okay, though they have a plan, at least.
Yes.
That some teams, like you'd mentioned, don't seem to have a plan.
Well, some of them are still trying to execute part 1 of their plan.
Exactly.
But I mean, and I'm glad that we're talking about the guard play, because there is something brewing right now that I kind of want people to keep an eye on, and that's the whole Jordan Clarkson situation, potentially being bought out from his contract in Utah and let back into free agency. That might be a player to look at if you are the Houston Rockets right now, because not only can Jordan Clarkson come off the bench and play the 1 or the 2 for you, but he'd be a great combo guard to help ignite that offense in the secondary unit if you needed somebody to come in and do that. And like you just said, they have plenty of money to spend right now. And I don't know, outside of maybe Malcolm Brogdon, if there's really anybody else that you would really look to bring in to fill that void right now.
Well, there's the other one that I was bringing up was Westbrook. And I know there was news that broke yesterday that the Knicks are reportedly a potential landing spot for Russell Westbrook.
Again, anybody that's contending for a ring, you are a potential landing spot for Russell Westbrook. Cleveland is probably a potential landing spot for Russell Westbrook, although he will never play for Cleveland because they have no intention of signing him.
Well, I know the Knicks, one of the big problems that they wanted to address was, bench scoring.
Yes.
And that's something that I think Westbrook could fill in. But once again, they don't have a head coach. And other news that broke out yesterday is that Mike Brown is emerging. He's getting his other interview. And I would just say, dude, we're going into day 2 of free agency.
Like, you guys are so
put a
far
plan together and do it.
behind.
Exactly.
Like, I don't understand why you haven't made your decision yet. And granted, yes, good for Mike Brown for getting his second interview with the Knicks, but they've also interviewed other coaches up to 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean anything.
Nothing.
It really doesn't. And at this point, like I heard Chris Canty say it yesterday on Unsportsmanlike, and I agree with him. If you are a Knicks fan, I'm concerned. I'm genuinely concerned, because how are you going to build around this team, or at least make the necessary roster moves you need to make it even back to the Eastern Conference Finals, let alone win the Eastern Conference Finals, if you don't even have a coach?
Say, so screw it. We don't need a coach.
You don't have a plan. Like, what do you like? If this was a team that was run by a former coach or a former player at GM, I'd kind of say, okay, maybe this isn't that big of a deal because he's probably got a plan. But the Knicks have not had a plan in years. They've thrown nothing but spaghetti against the wall and seen what's stuck. And at this point, what's next? Because who is the coach for you? We keep hearing Mike Brown. Now we hear Borrego. And then we heard the guy from Minnesota, one of their assistants. Make a decision. You don't need to interview the entire line of coaches to figure this out. Make your decision. Shoot, at this point, if you restructured a deal with Tom Thibodeau,
Right.
I'd be happy with
You're already
it.
paying him.
Figure it out.
That's what I would do, but I would never let him walk in the first place. So.
I know. Well, and again, that's what a lot of the fan base is mad about to this day is they still haven't explained why you moved on from a coach that was able to take you to the Eastern Conference Finals.
In other coaching news this morning, JJ Barea is now the Nuggets assistant coach. Good for him.
Good for him. I loved watching JJ Barea when he was on the Mavericks and playing in the league. And honestly, a chippy point guard that probably has, or I shouldn't say probably has, had one of the best basketball IQs on the Dallas teams that he played for. I think this could be a good step forward for him in the coaching realm. I don't know exactly what his plans are there, or if he plans to go further, but JJ Barea could be the next or in the long line of former players turned coach. I think that's a really cool thing. Other moves that we could talk about real quick before we take a quick break. The Memphis Grizzlies have signed all-star Yarin Jackson Jr. to a massive 5-year, $240 million max extension, and honestly, well-deserved. Probably one of the better defensive big men in the league outside of guys like Evan Mobley, and he has such a high ceiling for this Memphis team. Another team that we have sat there and said if they could just figure it out with a coach that could just connect with their star players like Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe they can make a run in the West. But this is a great step forward for the organization, I feel, in putting money behind a player that has shown that he has been nothing but productive for you and has stepped up in almost every way. I know last year he had his injury woes and there were certain games where he was missing and like just kind of lackluster. And I totally get that, especially in the playoffs. But I think next year, especially once they get about halfway through the season and this head coach really starts to formulate something with these players, you're going to see the best of Jaren Jackson.
Well, we'll take our first break. We'll get back and we'll talk about the Nuggets Nets trade. D'Angelo Russell has a new team, and a longtime Golden State Warrior has moved on. So we'll talk about that and much more right here on the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. And we have some breaking news for you as another major signing that's happened in the NBA. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has agreed to a 4-year, $285 million supermax extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder and will keep him in Oklahoma City through the 2030-2031 season, which doesn't even seem like a real number, right? Hey, honestly, we are right around the corner from 2030, and the fact that that is a actual year, just still, I can't wrap my head around that. But a massive extension for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who also wrapped in their number 2 player, Jalen Williams, this year with a big extension as well. They're keeping this core together for the foreseeable future. Chet Holmgren most likely is the next to get paid at some point, but great move for the Thunder. Obviously, you wrap in the MVP for the foreseeable future, and arguably, as I've said, the next face of the NBA.
Yep.
I'm going to put my chips in this bucket because he's the closest thing to an American that you're going to get. And for some reason, America can't get behind a European basketball player. I don't get it. Don't get me wrong. If it was up to me, technically, it probably would be Luka. Like, if I'm being dead honest, Luka is just likable. I like
take the
guy.
Joker, but
well, yeah, no, Joker too.
But slothy like.
Well, Joker just to me, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but Joker to me just seems like a guy that's gonna get bored of basketball one day and just say, you know what, I'm out
to his horses.
Yeah, I'm done. Like, I dominate you guys. I don't need to play anymore. Like, he could just 2-3 years from now, after LeBron retires, say, you know what, it's boring without Bron here. And I know it has nothing to do with LeBron, but I'm just saying in general, like, just to me, just his demeanor and everything about it just makes me feel like one day he could just get fed up with basketball and just say, you know what, I'm out. And because of that, I can't back him as the face of the league. I just can't.
And I like the SGA, but I also can see fans that weren't too happy with it was probably their first time watching SGA in the finals.
Yes.
You know, in the playoffs, really, a lot of viewers wait until the finals. And I think a lot of them were upset on the way basketball is these days with him, whether it's the push off or the fouls that he pulls. And I still see him as the face of the NBA coming.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine, though, being the Clippers right now? And I'm just sitting back there thinking, we traded for Paul George. We traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to Oklahoma City for Paul George. Which I love Paul George. Don't get me wrong. We've spoken nothing but highly things about Paul George.
I remember with my son, I was at the Universal Studios when his injury happened. And I saw it at the ESPN bar. And I was like, damn.
I felt for the kid. I really did. But to sit there and say that you traded away the MVP and probably future face of the league, and for a guy that, although liked playing for you, it just never worked out, and he could never really figure out how to mesh with your other star player, so you swiftly moved on from him as well to get James Harden. If I'm the Clippers right now, I'm sitting there thinking, God, we've made so many mistakes in the last 10 to 20 years.
But they got Brock Lopez.
I mean, good for you.
But no, you're banging your head against the wall on that one.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and don't get me wrong. I get that you can maneuver Brook Lopez to probably play the 4 or whatever you want to do. But it's
not SGA.
When you trade away, I'm not going to say a generational player, but somebody with the ability of SGA, an MVP caliber player, and easily probably going to win, what would you say, 3 chips with this team? I could see 3 rings out of this team in a 10-year span.
Yeah, probably.
I could totally see that. So it's going to be a multi-time champion, MVP, and potential face of the league traded away. If I'm the Clippers, I am absolutely just spiting myself.
Do you think Luka gets a bigger deal?
Yes, I think he will eventually get the max deal with the Lakers. I think they're working on that as we speak, and we'll probably hear about it in the next 2 to 3 days, to be honest.
I think it's only a couple weeks away until his option is available.
Right. And honestly, I think this entire situation, especially with the Lakers right now, running around with what LeBron is going to do and if he really wants out or not, I don't think he actually wants the trade. I think people are just, stirring up storylines so we have something to talk about. But I think the Lakers, your biggest concern is the fact that this big man market is becoming thinner and thinner by the minute, and you haven't signed one of them. Honestly, and there's still a handful out there that I feel like they could potentially go after, especially someone like Ayton, who if I'm the Lakers, I'm looking right there. He's a guy that you could probably pay at a decent price. That's an offensively gifted big man. I don't know. Like I think you could do worse. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, to get into we had two texts over the break, and one of them it went right into it. One said, I like the moves the Rockets are making, clearly moving closer to OKC.
Mhm.
Excited to see this team this fall. But going back to the LeBron, the first one said unsportsmanlike was going back and forth with this, and want to hear your guys' thoughts. If LeBron is traded to the Knicks and wins a title, now does he go above MJ on the GOAT list?
Oh no. Sorry, no. I don't care. You could win another chip for any team, you still wouldn't be put over Mike, and that's why he was on his podcast the other day saying he didn't understand what ring culture or why ring culture was such a big thing. And he himself is trying to mimic or like trying to push that down. So no, you would not be put over Michael Jordan, especially when it comes to the ring situation. At least that's me. But what are your thoughts?
I don't think it's even a conversation.
Yeah.
And I think if you're dropping Kobe's name, I mean, without dropping Kobe's name, then you're not a fan
Mhm.
of basketball, because I think there's still a few players in front of LeBron before you can even get in that conversation. But that's a whole different battle.
Here's a side of the argument that I know we use to compare these guys, but we never really explain why. Do you think it's a better thing going to like different teams and winning rings, or do you think it's a better thing to stay with one team and win multiple?
I'm always the loyal guy. So
Right. And I think a lot of people are, especially on the fan side of it. You would want this player to stay and win multiple rings for you, and that would elevate their greatness. But I do kind of see devil's advocate here. I do see why you would say that going to separate teams or multiple teams, I should say, like LeBron did, winning one in Cleveland and Miami, and now let's throw it out there as potential for the Knicks.
yeah.
Like that'll ever happen.
Mhm.
But winning from different teams like that kind of does make sense. But when you're in a situation like, say, I don't know, Kevin Durant, does that help you at all? Because honestly, I don't count that ring for Kevin.
No.
I really don't. I know
No.
everybody could sit there and say, yeah, you're a champion because you jumped ship on a team that was number 2 in the West to go to the team that was number 1 in the West that just broke the record for how many wins in a season that a team had.
And I would think the same thing with LeBron if he went to the Knicks after they just got to the conference finals and then get some, an extra game. And what would they have to trade, first of all? I mean, would it have to be Cat? Would it have to be a couple other players?
It seems like they're willing to get rid of Mikal Bridges and some of these Villanova ties, so maybe they go that route. But is that worth a trade for LeBron?
So my first part is, let's go with Bobby Mark. Says he talks about, does LeBron even have a trade value?
To be sensitive to LeBron, who's considered one of the greatest of all time, there isn't. And here's why, Dan. He's making $53 million. He's in his last year of his contract. He's 40 years old. And I talked to numerous teams yesterday and asked that same question. Would you give up basically the farm? And basically you'd have to give up 4 or 5 players to go get LeBron James for 1 year. And the unanimous answer was no, they wouldn't. Now the stakes change a lot if LeBron James ever became a free agent and did some type of buyout in Los Angeles. There you would have 29 teams lined up for him. But from a trade perspective, and here's a hypothetical, his former team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are in this second apron and have spent a lot of money, they would basically have to trade about 6 players, Dan, just to go out and get him for 1 year. And as one team told me, that's not smart business.
And that's why I think the whole trade with LeBron isn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
One is because you're going to have to give away a core of your team just to get a guy for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, they sit and wait and see what LeBron does after next season.
Right. And honestly, it kind of reminds me of the Aaron Rodgers situation, right? Like, granted, the history of this guy's play and his legacy proves that he is worth whatever you would pay for him as a free agent. But in terms of trading everything away, especially in an NBA and a league that we are headed towards, you need a deep team, a deep roster to make any kind of a run at all. It's not really centered around who has the best star anymore. It's more based around who has the best players on the team plus a star. So I don't think trading for LeBron James is a good move for anybody at this point. I really don't. I
I think it would be stupid
yeah,
of the Knicks
to trade away all of that.
like, you're a series away, man.
Right.
Why?
It's just like the Pacers last year. I know everybody wanted to freak out when the Pacers got to the Eastern Conference Finals, called it a fluke. They didn't see it that way. What did they do? They ran it back. They became the hottest team in basketball at the end of the regular season, and they showed it by getting all the way to the NBA Finals. I don't think you necessarily need to make drastic roster moves like that anymore in the NBA to be successful, unless you're trading for a guy like Kevin Durant or Giannis, somebody that's a little bit younger, has more on their contract, and somebody that you can actually build around rather than rent for a year.
And I'm glad you brought up Giannis, because that conversation has went cold. I haven't heard a thing.
Well, we heard Evan Cohen on this show on Friday. He told us that he didn't expect him to go anywhere. I'm starting to believe the same thing now. I don't think Milwaukee wants him to go anywhere.
Of course not.
Them making the moves, the re-sign Bobby Portis, who's one of his favorite teammates, and probably make some sort of moves in this offseason to pull some interesting pieces to Milwaukee to keep Giannis's interest there at least for a little bit longer.
I'd miss Bobby Portis.
That guy is such a he's an annoying player to play against.
Yes.
And I
up there.
hate every time we have to play Milwaukee because I know that guy's going to beat up somebody, and I hate watching it, but it's basketball, man. It's like, honestly, you know what it reminds me of? A little bit of Ron Artest.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
very brutish, but like, he's going to beat you up on the basketball court. He doesn't do it in a way that's illegal. Well, I mean, Ron
Sometimes.
did. But, I mean,
Rodman.
Ron and Rodman pushed that boundary very, very well. And honestly, Bobby Portis does a great job at it too. So
And that's why I loved him in Chicago. But another trade that happened yesterday, the Nuggets trading Michael Porter Jr. to and an unprotected first round in 2032 to Brooklyn for Cameron Johnson. Was that a big surprise? I know that move shed $79 million,
right?
But I mean, was it a big shock, or is it just a?
I think it's a lateral trade for both teams. Both teams were kind of looking for some way to move on from these players. Denver the relationship with Porter soured when the injury happened and his play kind of went downhill. And honestly, Cam was looking to get out of Brooklyn. I think a lot of players that are on the Brooklyn roster are looking to get out of Brooklyn, but this is a great move, I think, for both. It's a fresh start for Porter, who honestly could be a solid player for a team that actually leans on him. And for a guy like Cam, it's a fresh start for him too, on a team that's a former championship team that he could learn a lot from. So I think this is a good trade for both teams, although I'm not crazy about the unprotected first round pick given up for Denver. Although obviously they think that they're going to be successful for the foreseeable future past 2032. That's 7 years from now. Anything can happen in 7 years.
Oh yeah, that's
so you could have just given up
trade.
a top 3, top 5 pick. We don't know. We'll see how this all shapes up, because again, as I told you, 2030 sounds like a fake year to me.
2020 felt like that a couple years ago. So we'll wrap up into the NBA. We definitely hit a nerve with the Laker talk. So we got a couple more texts with LeBron right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. Sorry, I'm reading Bobby Bonilla Day again. I mean, as a Phillies fan, there's not a lot of days in baseball that make me smile as much as Bobby Bonilla Day.
See, and you are the second person in my whole life that says it like that.
Really?
You and Garrow is the only one that say it.
It
I always grew up, it was Bonilla.
Bobby Bonilla Day or Bobby Bonilla, whatever you
And I
want to call
hear
it.
Bonilla. I've only heard
I
you
know
the second
I
person,
say it
but it's
wrong,
good
but
company because Garrow is
yes.
G.
Again, I only call him that because this is arguably still one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in baseball. But again, Bobby Bonilla, for those of you who don't know, is a player that used to play for the Mets, who every year on this day, July 1st, gets paid by the Mets $1.193 million for his contract, because the way baseball structured back in the day, they pretty much gave Bonilla the same contract that the Dodgers have given Shohei today, where they deferred a lot of the millions upon millions of dollars that they owed him through long past when he retired. And this contract will essentially keep him paid and his family paid through the year 2035.
35.
Again, 10 years from now. But because it's the Mets and because it's still to this day one of the funniest stories I could talk about, because Bobby did not play very much for the Mets at all after signing this contract. And when he did, he was awful. Awful. So it's just one of those great stories, at least for me as a Phillies fan, because I get to make fun of the Mets for one of the dumbest contracts ever made in baseball, and continues to be a just great little nod to how just like
How
I
awesome
said,
that is, just to know that you've been out of the league since 2011,
and you're still getting paid.
and every year this
Still
time
getting paid, man. And
That's a summer vacation every year with this family.
absolutely. And think of it this way too: in the long run and longevity of the game, I realize $1 million, or I guess 1.2, if you really want to boil it down, is not that much money. It's really not. It's a tiny little
Not
cap
for him.
hit. No, absolutely not. But that's still, in my opinion, for Bobby, great on you, dude. Like you just said, you get paid a pension essentially for the rest of your life, and your family is set with millions upon millions of dollars. That's why I said for Shohei too, when he signed his deal with the Dodgers, good for you. Like I think that you getting paid $10 million for the rest of your life essentially is a smart move.
Yeah.
That's why at the end of this, when this contract is essentially done in 2035, we'll probably be calling this Shohei Ohtani Day.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Shohei inevitably retires and the Dodgers have to pay Shohei for the rest of his natural life, we're not going to be seeing it as a big joke as we do Bobby Bonilla Day. Don't get me wrong. It's not anywhere near that kind of a thing, but it's going to be a constant reminder of baseball's structure and how wacky their contracts can get, and how much, if your owner is willing to pay for it, you can buy players in baseball. So I don't know.
That's genius.
It's a constant reminder to me.
It was genius with Ohtani, but we'll be talking about it, how it's not a genius once they are starting to pay him for the rest of his life.
And I completely lowballed the Shohei thing. I think it's actually like 68 million for the rest of, or until like 34 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the structure is, but regardless, $680 million of his contract being deferred until well later is a massive talking point. So
but we broke the story SGA, got the Super Max this morning.
Correct.
And before we get away and get into your LeBron text, long time 10-year run with the Golden State Warriors, Looney is now with the Pelicans. 10 years. 10 years. He signed a 2-year, $16 million deal with New Orleans.
He was on those teams against Cleveland. Okay. And no, Looney is one of those players that I am so used to seeing him on one team. It actually has blurred together for me that he has been on the team that long.
For a while.
Like he was on the team he was drafted back when Andre Iguodala was still playing. So no, it makes a lot of sense.
And the Mavericks signing a free agent guard, D'Angelo Russell, to a 2-year deal.
This one is interesting to me because much like the Brook Lopez deal, D'Angelo, I understand, at least for the first half of the season, because Kyrie's going to be on the bench injured and dealing with his rehab and stuff like that, I believe until All-Star break. So he will at least
says
be the
majority of the season. So
okay. So I mean, so D'Lo will most likely be the starter at point for the majority of the season, and maybe works his way to the 2 if Clay doesn't work out. But it's going to be another situation where if you're Dallas, you're going to have 2 potentially starting point guards who have played pretty dang well the last couple of years. And who are you going to really ride with? Are you going to choose Kyrie Irving? Or you could choose D'Angelo Russell at the end of the day.
And this is Tim Legler after that pickup.
Well, first of all, I think that's a bargain of $6.5 million a year. Really, D'Angelo Russell still can score. And I think for me, he said stopgap. That's a good word. I just look at it as a solution to the Kyrie Irving problem. We don't know when we're going to see Kyrie Irving again, but they still have Anthony Davis. They brought in Cooper Flagg. This is a team that wants to get out of the gate. They don't want to be buried behind a bunch of teams in the West. To me, D'Angelo Russell is about as good as you're going to get on the market right now, and that's obviously a great number.
Oh, he's absolutely right. That's a great number for him, and it's a bargain deal. I just don't know. We've seen this in the past with D'Angelo Russell. Maybe he has grown past it, but there are certain situations that he's been in his career where he couldn't really take a back seat to somebody. And he wanted to be the starter and believed he was the starter on the team. And when he was taken from that starting position, he didn't really like it very well. Or he didn't take to it very well, I should say. So I'm not sure exactly how he's going to take to this type of situation. Although I'm going to float this question at you because, I mean, we were talking about how Houston is becoming such a red hot place for these players to play. Should we just not expand it to Texas as a whole?
Yeah.
Because really, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio are really shaping up to be three of the hottest locations for a lot of these big players to go play. And we could see all three of those teams in a fight for a top positioning in the West next year.
Well, we've got a couple, and this one goes right back to Dallas. It says, I don't think the LeBron to Dallas was real when I heard you guys talking about it yesterday, but now I'm seeing it everywhere. Can you imagine if they traded Flagg to the Lakers and teamed him up with Luka?
Here's the thing, though. With these rumors, you're not getting Cooper.
No.
You would maybe get
take
Clay.
more.
Like, honestly, I don't think you would get Cooper at all. I think that the plan, if that were to happen, and again, it's not going to. LeBron's
Not
most
after
likely.
We just talked about the LeBron and his deal.
No, LeBron honestly is most likely going to play for the Lakers. They're going to figure out some way for him to play out this player option year, and maybe he plays another year next year. Maybe.
But not in LA.
No.
I wouldn't think.
No, I think LA is definitely shaping up to move on to Luka is now center of our plan, and everybody else is going to be focused on helping him.
And you know how stupid they would be to trade their first pick of this year's draft to the Lakers for 1 year with LeBron?
Yes, but again, we're talking about Nico Harrison.
Exactly.
We're talking about Nico Harrison. Now, and again, jury's still out. Unless I see something come down the pipeline eventually of ESPN breaking some story saying the league forced Nico Harrison to trade Luka to the Lakers, I'm going to go out and say Nico Harrison's the dumbest general manager on the planet. So is it possible? 110%. If Nico Harrison is your general manager, it is always possible for you to make a stupid move like that. But I don't think it's a good move for Dallas. We talked about it when it comes to Cleveland and everybody else and what you would have to give up. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give up all of that, especially in a league where we're moving towards you need a stacked roster to win. And if you don't have that stacked roster, you're going to get left in the dust.
It's going to take more than a 40-year-old LeBron.
And I think the Knicks are a great example of that too, that when it really boils down for the Knicks, all they really have is their starting five. And Robinson. I'll give you that. I'll give him 6 players on that roster. Everybody else, non-existent. Non-factors. They really aren't that great of players. And that's why I also double down on what Chris Canty said yesterday. If you're a Knicks fan, you're worried right now because if you can't even find a coach to help build a playbook or a structure for what you want your team to look like, how are you going to make any moves in free agency?
Yeah, and they got to do it I would think last week.
Right. And no player is going to sensibly sign with a team when they don't even know who they're playing for. So it's going to be really hard to lure in free agents when you don't have a coach.
And this other one says, I think the Lakers should want LeBron to leave so they can start building with Luka. And I really I agree with Burdick, which I don't think it's going to happen. But for Laker fans, I think they want him out.
Oh, I think that's a growing feeling in the Laker fandom. I've seen nothing but, especially old school Laker fans, want LeBron out.
And the last one says, I think LeBron wants out too, and I think he wants to go back to Cleveland to end his career, but obviously they'll have to be after next season.
Honestly, the fairy tale ending for him in Cleveland would be nice. It would have to go by free agency, though, and he's going to have to, and I mean have to take a cut. Like, you cannot go to Cleveland on a $50 million contract. I'm sorry. It's not going to work. Honestly, it's either going to be that or he's going to play with whomever Bryce gets drafted by. And maybe bring Bronny with him so the three of them can play together. But at that point, it would just be LeVar Ball's dream, and LeBron is living it. Because I don't understand, but it is what it is. And I just don't see LeBron moving, though. I think LeBron and the Lakers is a partnership that's going to just ride it out till the end. And unfortunately for Laker fans, if you don't like that, it's just something you're going to have to get used to. I don't think you should freak out about it just yet, though. I think this tandem with LeBron and Luka could be a lot better than people realize, especially when you give LeBron a whole season to play as a big man. If you let Luka start playing what LeBron was doing as the point forward, and then have LeBron do what Anthony Davis should have done while he was playing there, I think you could have a pretty good tandem there. And I think Laker fans are going to make a complete 180 and say, you know what? I'm glad we didn't trade LeBron, because this could have been the best run for us.
They
Don't
could have
forget,
missed out on something like that.
right. And don't forget, but when we came into the playoffs this last year, the Lakers were a favorite. They were a favorite to win the whole thing. So let's not make this a whole drastic thing, just like the Knicks, and blow it all up just because you didn't make it.
Yeah. And Luka's cut weight. Let's see a full season with him before you start.
I sure hope that the rumors that I hear about how he cut that weight aren't true, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because for those of you who are Ozempic fans or whatever, these G1s or whatever they're called, long-term effects to that type of stuff, man. I'm telling you right now. So I'm hoping that's not true, because that would mean that he's probably headed towards something pretty rough.
Well, it was definitely something.
Yeah,
because
he lost a
cut that
lot of weight.
Quick. But we'll wrap up this segment. Then we'll have our boy 24KG join us at 8 o'clock. This is the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. Go follow us on all social media if you haven't already. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all over the place. You got some reels of the show, some highlights that we share, and obviously we will keep you up to date on all things sports throughout the day, or at least as much as we can. There's a story we got to talk about real quick before we get to KG in our wrestling segment of the week, as we usually do. The BYU quarterback, or soon to be former BYU quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, has been absolved of this sexual assault lawsuit that he was dealing with. So
Did they drop it?
They did drop it.
Oh, nice.
So he is no longer dealing with this. Thank God. For those of you who don't know the situation, I know we talked about it briefly yesterday. The BYU quarterback, now senior, was under investigation of allegations of sexual assault as a girl, Jane Doe, never gave her name.
Oh, I know her.
Well, I think a lot of people know Jane, especially Mary. But it's a situation where this girl came forward and said that he raped her, bit her, strangled her, the whole nine. And he was facing a 7-game suspension from BYU. And I'll get to that in a second, as well as obvious legal issues. This has all been absolved. The case has been dropped, I would assume, for multiple reasons. There were allegations coming out where he said, no, it was very much consensual. And like, I can prove that it was consensual. I'm sure he came forward and proved it was consensual. And the 7-game suspension is due to BYU's rules. This is not an NCAA suspension. This is because BYU, for those of you who don't follow BYU, Brigham Young University is a very Mormon area. And they have a clause within all of their the scholarships, where you cannot, you can't do that. You can't have sex before marriage. You have to abide by their religious views, and you have to do like utmost moral code. So the 7-game suspension.
I didn't even know it was real.
I didn't either. I thought that this was an NCAA thing, but no, this is a 7-game suspension that if he plays for BYU still will be put on him, which is probably why he's decided that he will be transferring and not playing for BYU next season, amongst other reasons, because I know that they just got one of the top prospects at quarterback here the next couple of years coming in as well. But I mean, how do you feel about this story, Spark? Personally, I think it's great that he was absolved of all of this and that he can continue his playing career and hopefully make something happen at a different school next year.
What year are we in?
I know.
I had no idea that this was a thing, and I had to double check when I read it. I was like, what? So yeah, the 7-game suspension is a real thing, and I mean, I
kind of find it ridiculous. It is like, but again, I'm not a religious person like that. I really am not. I was born and raised Catholic, so I went to Catholic school. I get it. I understand religion is a great way to set up some moral background and some moral guidelines for you and to live your life by. But this is a little bit ridiculous, right?
I mean, you're paying the guy.
7-game suspension. 7 games. Like, we've seen kids do way worse and get 2 games from the NCAA. This is like, I wonder what else they would get. Like, they would slap him with if this is a 7-game suspension for having sex once.
And it's been dropped.
Yeah, and it's been dropped.
The charges, anyways. But I mean, their charges are way different. Yeah, obviously.
That's what they're explaining too. Is that this had nothing to do with the lawsuit? This is because you had sex with a woman.
Yeah, you don't make the whoopee while you go to BYU.
Exactly. I'm like, what the This is a senior in college. Imagine that. You guys are driving to work right now thinking about this. This is somewhat of an adult
show.
Morning
talk.
This is morning talk. Think about that for a sec, man. That's kind of ridiculous that you get a 7-game suspension for hooking up with your girlfriend, or I would hope girlfriend.
Yes.
Like,
probably not anymore.
We'll never know who this was.
You can tell you brought this up yesterday off the air, but it's sure that she was just kind of covering her tracks.
Oh, yeah.
As she's like, no, I had nothing to do with that, Mom. I promise.
Exactly. I'm sure this came down to they got caught. They both said, trying to cover for each other, and then she couldn't cover for him. So she said, well, he made me do it. It's the first thing everybody goes with, right? Is, oh, they made me do it. I had no control over my actions. They made it happen. So, and again, I don't know this lady. I don't know the full situation like that. We weren't there. But from what I can read from this, from everything that I've read going into this, this is a situation that was easily provable if it was consensual or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a religious person, let us know.
Yeah.
Is this something that, I mean, I've dated a Mormon in high school, and I know how strict the families are. So I
grew up
understand
with
it.
Mormons.
I understand it.
That we couldn't play specific video games and stuff like that around them because of their
Movies.
religions. Yeah, their movies, cartoons. I understand how very serious it is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your religious views. That's not at all what I'm saying. But the reprimanding for this 7 games for a senior that
you're paying millions to play.
Come on, man. That's a little excessive. Let's, like, if you slapped him with a 2 to 3 game, okay, whatever. Like, you guys have bylaws, I'd be okay with that. 7 games. That's half the year for one night.
And now you're losing him.
Yeah, and now you're losing them all together. So it doesn't really matter. But I don't know. I find that to be a little excessive. But again, I'm not crazy about religion taking over people's lives like that. But that's just me. But we got to take a break real quick, pay some bills. Other side, we will talk wrestling with our guy KG. He is live from his home today. He will not be with us in studio, unfortunately. But we got to talk Night of Champions as well as what we saw last night at Raw, because they have set up some great matches for you at Evolution, as well as Saturday night's main event coming up just in a few weeks. So until then, come back here in a couple minutes. You are listening to the Early Bird Special right here on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, go follow us on YouTube as well. You can watch us every single day from 7 to 9 a.m. on a video stream. We will be right back. The video stream's not listening to me today, but welcome back to the Early Bird Special.
Salutations, everybody.
Salutations, my friend.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
He's playing the Judgment Day song for us at the moment. Oh, the good one. Thank God. Finally.
I wish I
Dude,
could be
I'm
with you
not-
guys live in studio
And
to hear that.
the rap one. The
Oh,
rap
the-
one they have now is not good.
But I am.
Look,
Alter
take it
Bridge
from a
is-
fellow artist.
I know
I'm
we're gonna
not feeling that.
get KG right now, but I was super pumped last night. Not only is the first match of the night, but it was a hell of a match, and I'm glad to see JD back in full strength and well deserved. They finally got the belts.
I still think Finn needs a singles belt, but we'll get to that right now. But 24KG, our wrestling analyst, is obviously with us, as you heard a couple seconds ago. My friend, thank you for joining us, even though obviously you had to do it from your home today.
Yes, indeed. We're live in the home studio today. You know what I mean? We've got some roundabout things going on in the world of music. Speaking of Judgment Day's new song, not necessarily a fan. I agree with Sparky on that. And sensational on the Miami hat today, good sir. I see you. I see you.
He's been wearing the Miami hat for a while, especially since we can
Yeah.
now see his face a little bit better.
It's just a lot more noticeable, man. Shout out to the crew. I see you, Bird. Those cameras are looking awesome.
I'm trying. We do what we can over here. But we got to talk
Let's
to you.
talk about it.
Yeah, let's start with Night of Champions, my friend, because we have to talk. I'm going to start with this because this was a focal point of what we talked about last week when it came to these matches. I'm going to come out and say it because I said it yesterday. That was probably the best match I have seen out of Jade Cargill since she became a wrestler at WWE, especially when it came to technicalities, the counters that she had for Asuka's move set and all that type of stuff. What say you? Did you enjoy the match at all? Are you still lukewarm on what we've got?
Okay. All right. Because I was very critical last week.
Yes, you were.
I will be
This is why I
very
have to
honest. I will be very honest. With whom she was working with made her performance better, of course. With more experienced talent comes that. And I have to agree with you. It was the best presentation I've seen so far of Jade Cargill. And it eases off some of the woes I had on how they were booking her and how she's being absorbed by the audience as well. We're not going to talk about the Saudi crowd just yet, but let's just say generally at home from what we're seeing on TV here in America and on Netflix. It was actually pretty dang good, man.
See,
What?
I was hoping I'd hear that from you.
It was actually okay when I look back at it and I say, dang, okay. There's everything that I was asking for, like delivered in this pay-per-view that we just seen in Saudi Arabia that I was talking about last week. I seen the improvement. I seen more smoother delivery, the coordination. And at least she doesn't call out her moves out loud like John Cena.
I mean, well, that's on purpose, I think. I was going to get to that because
I'm sorry, but I love Cena. That's my boy. But overall, Jade Cargill's performance, I was actually impressed with, and I will eat that humble pie right now as I take a sip of this coffee.
Look at that. Look at that. I mean, the first step to manhood is always saying when you're wrong.
Well, we take accountability.
We take accountability.
I'll just stop right there.
Especially on this show, we take accountability. So I'm glad that you took accountability in this.
You know,
Now,
WWE is going to start selling accountability over the counter now for people who really need it. So I'm just saying, I got mine first.
Well, you're humble. Is that what you're drinking in the cup? Is the humble accountability?
Oh yeah. I have to be honest.
It's no
Jade
longer
Cargill.
Folgers.
Jade Cargill, she did her thing. So
No,
I look to
still
see,
think
I look to
the
see
Raquel-
growth.
The Raquel and Rhea match was fire.
Oh yeah. Oh man, come on now. A Riyadh street fight, whatever you want to call it, street fight. I think their last match they made stipulations, not so intense as this last one, because the last time I believe they met was in NXT a few years ago before the main call-ups. And this one, I did a little research, it outshined that one. So, and they know each other very well, so that's very safe opponent-wise. They trust each other. They took a lot of liberty with certain spots, with cracking the shell top of the announce table over the barricade. Hey, I haven't seen that done in WWE in a women's match, nonetheless, on a PLE. So kudos to them. And they're two big gals, just breaking each other's faces. And it was very enjoyable to watch. The crowd, they ate it up.
That I think was probably the highlight of the match, or of the entire night, was the Rhea and Raquel match. However, I got to get your thoughts on what I thought was the low point of the entire night. Carrie and Sammy.
Okay, so look, all these rumors that we've been having about Karrion Kross and everything going on right now with him not taking bumps and whatnot. They put that down. They put that all the way down.
But
We've
see, that's
seen
what I was gonna ask. Do you think that those are real? Like, I think the internet likes to run with those as excuses. Like, why their guy's not getting pushed. Maybe there's something behind the scenes. I
well,
don't have a storyline for him. I think these writers just don't know how to use him properly. And honestly, I think it would be useful for them if they just pulled them in and said, okay, how do you see your story going? Because like you told us in the PLE, no one asked him about his story. No one asked him how he wins.
This is the thing. We haven't seen somebody like Karrion Kross get over organically with the audience since Zack Ryder. Look at all the internet behind the scene documentaries that he's doing.
And that's why we got the internet championship back.
Yeah. Keeping himself relevant on these Netflix commercials that we don't get to see, with interviews in front of the crowd, and taking every advantage that he can with the TV time that he's given to get over. And maybe there is some resentment from some of the writers, maybe some of the team that aren't seeing him play ball the way they would like him to. Well, like you just said, give him a storyline too. We can see that he can adapt to anything that you throw at him and make it watchable. So why not give the man a chance? He's doing great work.
That's what I'm saying. And honestly, the fan base is behind him. I think you could get really good championship runs out of him.
And nonetheless, let him just be a pure heel.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting over with such good work that it's going to be hard to keep him a heel, because people naturally are gravitating towards the character that he's personifying right now.
And honestly, I think they missed a massive opportunity with what they were building back when they first pulled him up.
I agree with you entirely. And Spark, if you want to get something in there, because I'm just going to end this on one thing that I really had a distasteful just result with watching the end of the match. Is there anything that you want to get in there? Because
we kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday. I was happy with the return of him, like keeping the story going with Raw last night. But yeah. I was excited to. I mean, I had to stop. I had to silent my phone, because I know a couple buddies that will blow up my phone during the live event. But we had the Battle of the Bartenders. So no, I needed my phone. I had the house to myself Sunday morning, so I got to catch up, watch SmackDown, watch the PLE, and I was pumped to see this match, and it was going well. But just how it ended, it was just like, really? Like,
yeah,
that's what we
won.
get.
That's all it took. One haluva kick, and it's over. Okay, now note, finishers aren't really finishers anymore. They're kind of setups now. So just to see one was okay. If that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. But we later on seen in the night, that's not what we were doing.
No. And again, that's what bugged me, is that we had a solid 15 minutes of Karrion Kross beating Sammy to a pulp just to end it with a real quick gunshot. And then, Karrion's down. He loses as if he has a glass jaw. And it's like, dude, that was the weakest you could have made him look.
Now, I get it, in defense of how it was written and how it's supposed to get over. All it takes is one mistake to lose a match. I get it, but Sammy didn't need the win. Karrion needed the win.
Yeah.
Kross needed that win because, hell, he's been getting drugged for the last 6 months on television.
Yeah.
I don't know when the last time he won a match was. So,
and not to jump, but I think you're right. I don't think Sammy needed the win. And just like, it almost feels like they're keeping Sammy in this other story with Rollins and all them just as a backup, because they don't know how well that this writing is going to go with Karrion.
I don't know.
And they've got a lot of people hurt right now. So they need to kind of start thinking about protecting the roster and telling the guys to slow it down a little bit.
But before we go away from all this, I will say I was pumped. I'd started with the Judgment Day music is because I've been a big Judgment fan, the whole group, really.
Right. Yeah.
But seeing them getting the titles and seeing the reaction with the crowd, I mean, they were getting cheered on. And I think you're right, Burdick. I think it's almost time to. I know they've got the titles, but they're seeing it now. The Finn's got a backing.
Dude, I'm telling you right now. And
Chris, get it in.
The entire Judgment Day having belts again looks good.
Looks awesome.
Okay.
Honestly, I think Roxanne in there with Raquel looks a lot better than Liv did.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay.
And I don't think, especially after yesterday, I don't think you have to break them up anymore.
Nope.
Okay. You guys got yours in?
Hold on. Now
Liv's gonna come back pissed.
Liv's coming back pissed. but
Mhm.
Liv's coming back pissed and is now once again a main eventer.
Yep.
She is
Okay.
now once again going against Rhea and Io and all of these women
And
for
Raquel.
main titles, while Raquel and Roxy do their thing as a tag. I think
Okay.
that works a lot better for the group as a whole.
So what do you think, KG? I mean, does this help with the I know we've been talking about it for weeks about the women's tag team titles not, being a snore fest. I think, bringing in Roxanne, it definitely put some fire in it. Plus seeing them all, bump their belts together at the end of Raw
That
or
was
during
Okay.
Raw. It
Come
was
on.
awesome.
Okay.
What do you think,
Fly
Check
KG?
this
belt.
out. I'm going to try to
Yeah.
wrap this up as quick as possible so we can get to the next one. But I want to give you guys, I agree with everything you just said, but I'm going to say something that is an unpopular truth, not an opinion, that a lot of wrestling fans have to swallow right now. All right. Reason why the New Day lost the titles to the Judgment Day last night is because that whole situation fell apart with their heel run, and they weren't doing anything storyline wise with the titles besides flexing and talking and all that. Hey, great, you guys are Hall of Famers, cool. Judgment Day though, and this is where people might say, "Oh, KG, you crazy." Judgment Day is still one of the most popular factions in the company,
Yeah.
merch
that's why I
wise
think we
and
don't have
on
to break 'em
TV.
up.
They've got some of the best workers, not only in that group, in the entire company on any roster or show you put them on. The storyline has been going how many years now, from when it started with Edge, Adam Copeland, to bringing in Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, then they brought in Finn. This is about 3-4 years now, right? It's almost
least.
as long as the bloodline. So you would start to think somebody knows a little something about good talent in a faction on TV. Putting the straps back on them might make more monetary sense to someone like ourselves who know how to absorb and watch the product for what it is, versus someone who just scratches their head and say, well, why did that happen? Well, fan who scratches their head, let me tell you why that happened. Like you just said with Liv, and this whole thing with Roxanne slingshots this group into another chapter, so to speak, of just upper echelon talent coming through. So if they ever dissolve, bring in another member, that affiliation stamp, much like a Bullet Club, NWO, DX, will follow that person through their career, knowing that they are a made man or woman.
I was just about to bring that up. Does this make the Judgment Day essentially the WWE's version of the Bullet Club without having to buy the property of the Bullet Club?
Well,
Because
I didn't
that's
have to
really
say
the-
it. You did.
Well, that's essentially the only way that
Yeah.
they can do it, because without buying the product itself, and unless you're going to pay out, what is it now, like 8 different variations of this team, you're
And
not
all the
gonna be able to buy-
copyrights that branch off from that on those
Exactly.
8, it's more than 8. It's about 20 something now.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous number that the Bullet Club has now branched into. So in order to buy the entire, Bullet Club itself would probably be too much money. So why not just make your own?
Well, going off of your comments and using that as a transition, because we did have a couple listeners yesterday that were upset about the the bloodline still straggling it along, and with the Fatu
Hey,
and Solo match.
Pete alone looked good though.
See, I was
Agreed.
I'm a big
7-footer
Fatu fan,
looked good.
but I knew it was time for Solo to get his title. So what do you think now with the younger bloodline, the new chapter of it, with
Okay.
now 4 members going on 5? What do you think about this?
I think all you got to do is add water, and you got more Fatus. They just like gremlins. They just pop up. Feed them after
Saiyaman.
midnight.
Oh
It
my
gets even worse.
I will say,
Yeah, you know what I
this
mean.
morning, they did release some rumors that Raw or actually SmackDown was pre-recorded
Yes,
for
it
this
was.
Friday, obviously for the holiday, and
Yes.
they say that there was 2 wrestlers that made returns, and of course they show a big picture of Roman. So is it setting up the Roman Solo thing again?
I think we do have Survivor Series coming around the corner after Clash in Paris.
But
And-
hear me out, KG. Why are we doing it again?
Well,
Again?
Yes.
We got this 3 years
Yes.
in a row, bruh.
As-
3 years.
As Paul Heyman would say, what inning are we in? And with as many family members as they have in the industry that can be
We're in
called
the
up,
second inning, apparently.
yeah, we're looking at a whole
the doubleheader.
all-star team of a
the
rehash
doubleheader.
storyline. Yeah, this is this is gonna run deep. I eventually think it'll stop by the time we get to the Tonga twins, the female twins in the family. But then again, by that time, all the children might be of age and ready to go into NXT. This is a never-ending story. All we need is the dog to fly in and just scoop everybody up and take them to the ring.
Now I can't unsee all of these Samoan wrestlers as Cybermen. I really can't. All I'm thinking about is Dragon Ball Z and those little green guys that Vegeta throws out of the ground.
Yeah, the power-ups are real, man. So with that match, we were expecting someone to make a debut, someone to come in, interfere, much like how it's always been when Roman was keeping his title.
Well, technically, we were all right, though, because we called Tangaloa coming back from injury and Idoloa being in this match. So, both of them happened.
And you need somebody with a physically intimidating presence that really looks menacing next to or in front of Jacob Fatu. So, it makes sense. Of course, people are going to go, again, but it's not like we're not gonna watch. And
so
plus,
see Roman with Fatu.
I've not seen the SmackDown spoilers yet. You got to one up on me on that, but I have seen the footage before, not the footage, but the storyline thread before we went on air momentarily. Now, what I do want to say though, I mean, hats off and shout out to Solo Sikoa, man, for like just being the super, like his improvement in his character work is equal to Dom's growth in the wrestling ring.
100%.
Those two guys is like, man, we know the future of the business is in good hands when you're seeing character work be delivered on a consistent basis like that. Like last night with Dominic and AJ Styles. Can't touch me. Ha! And he put the paper in his face and he's like, you hear him when he's walking off the back rail. MC Hammer, can't touch this. I'm like, this dude is
honestly though.
Yeah.
Between him and Solo, I have to agree with you. The biggest character development in the past year, because remember when we were doing this before we were on radio, and you can go back and watch these episodes on our YouTube channel. But when we were just a podcast, we were talking about Solo Sikoa and how much we were hoping the WWE would let him grow into the character he was on NXT. This funny, like brutish character that actually had a personality to him rather than the silent type that we saw for so long in the Bloodline. And honestly, I'm standing by it. He's the Samoan Godfather. That's all.
Yeah.
And I don't mean
I like to call him like the Samoan Nino Brown with the suits and all that. But he really has I feel like he's evolved the Street King persona that they used to call him, and now he's like a mini boss, or his own head of his own table. However, they're gonna splinter this down the way. I'm going to watch because it's a part of something that we grew attached to watching through the COVID era, the inception of the Bloodline with Jimmy, Jay, and Roman.
But see, I'm full circle back into this. This is why I don't want to see another War Games match, because we've seen him do that 3 times now. Now,
if we see some type of, it might not be a War Games match, but maybe a traditional Survivor Series elimination match. And that might be different, but still the same, just without 2 other rings on the side in the cage. Nonetheless, I feel like it's going to introduce someone else to the whole playing field of this Samoan family warfare that we're seeing play out on WWE.
I don't know, dude. This entire thing, you're probably right, because maybe it's Roman's brother, Lance, who's also been in development, jumps into this and is the third to help them. But I don't need to see Roman come back with another new bloodline, get the twins on board again with Jacob and whomever their 5th is, and get a 5-on-5 again between Roman's bloodline and Solo's bloodline.
Well, you know what's going to happen.
And
it's going to happen.
And that's the problem, though, is that like I get that we, makes money, but God, dude, can we get
my hands are tied, bro.
Little different.
To make a quick turn the other way, but they did announce yesterday ahead of next weekend's Evolution is a battle royale match where the winner will get a title shot. And
early predictions right now, who do you guys think will win said battle royale? Because this is the second time it's happened, because they did have it at the first Evolution as well. Do we remember who won the first one?
Oh,
I'll look it up right now. But while you guys are contemplating and
speaking, they also set up the EO and Rhea match was how Raw was started. But I know this is going to be a bad choice of words, but the stupid now they've added Bailey into the Becky and Lyra.
Nia won the first one, by the way.
Okay.
There you go.
But now we're gonna get, I believe, another match because last night's was a draw, which was silly.
That actually, you know what? I wanted to bring that up too. When's the last time you saw a wrestling match in the WWE end in a draw?
Been a while, but it sets up a triple.
I don't think
threat,
we were born.
I don't think we were born either. I don't remember that happening in the Attitude Era.
I don't think that was part of the rules. Like we were
No.
watching. But
they're
yeah,
dragging that
nonetheless,
Lyra crap around.
I believe one of you guys said it last week. This was eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
This was bound to happen, of course, because Bayley, she had to sit on the bench for WrestleMania, I believe it was, with the whole situation and how Lyra lost the title. Hey, everybody had sour grapes about that, but now we're making wine and getting busy to it. So the match nonetheless was not disappointing. It was very intense. It could have shined in more spots, but you know what? Hey, I had no complaints about it. They were working hard.
It was better than the Lyra Becky one.
Yeah, I think Bayley actually works better with Lyra than Becky, but then again, we have seen Becky and Lyra too many times. So it's kind of become predictable as far as counter, move match, outcome. It's a nice new little spin on things. So we'll see how it goes with the triple threat, and it should be a great watch.
My secret just early prediction for the Battle Royale would be I could lean on Stephanie Vicaire, but that one is a little bit too easy. I'm going to go with the what's her name? The chick that's now running Gable's group.
Oh,
Ivory Nile.
That would be awesome to see.
Ivory Nile would be great to see.
She's put in a lot of work.
She has done great things for the mid-card division of the women, of the women's division.
But there was another girl that I was going to ask you guys, the big blonde chick that I believe is in a different league, but is now, I believe it was TKO that she was in. We saw her at Rumble. We saw her.
Jordynne Grace?
Royal Rumble. Yes.
Jordynne Grace.
And
yeah,
I know
she's in NXT.
I've read a lot that they're trying to push her now into the main roster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because
that would be a great debut for her as well.
With Stephanie and Julia.
So that would also, which another thing we didn't talk about is Julia finally got her title. But
right. But we can get into that at some point because.
But I think that could be maybe a change up for the Battle Royale.
I think most definitely.
I like your choice. I think Ivy Nile definitely deserves a push. I don't know, because my personal opinion, whoever wins this is somebody that you're gonna get a main title shot. So I think it's got to be somebody a little bit bigger than Ivy right now, probably.
Yeah,
I don't know, because Charlotte and Alexa, they've definitely been dancing around this tag team idea between the two of them. So I don't know if we're gonna see Charlotte go after a main title for a while. But KG, do you have an early prediction?
It's either going to be a returning superstar. Maybe Bianca Belair is clear from her hand injury now, and we see her kind of start planting the seeds for a heel turn.
I can see that.
Or
especially if Jade ends up winning that belt off of Tiffy at SummerSlam.
Yeah. So that's a strong possibility, especially with the cash in of Naomi, maybe with some assistance or blockage from Bianca some way. That I see that kind of spiraling to that point. Or to state the obvious, Stephanie Vicaire. And God, I think my dark horse pick would hopefully, if I was just, randomly right, a debuting Jordynne Grace. But I still think that's a long shot because she hasn't gotten a proper run in NXT yet. Yeah. And maybe if that's what's supposed to happen, I'm all for it because, man, she is definitely going to, surprise a lot of people. Maybe not. She's built like a tank. They call her the Juggernaut, not just for obvious reasons. She can go in the ring.
Well, the night before that is also the Saturday night main event, which they also threw in the Rollins
and LA Knight. That was the night match. That is a random pairing. I get it though, because obviously
I'm here for it.
Moments where Rollins' group is taking down people from the Money in the Bank match, including LA Knight. So I'm also here for it because we need a push for LA just as much as we need a push for Karrion Kross.
Most definitely.
I'm starting to get annoyed that we aren't getting that for LA Knight because we were talking about it a year ago that he would be in the main card title at least picture by now, and we haven't seen it yet. My early prediction for the Rumble situation, I'm going to say Liv. I'm going to say Liv comes back way earlier than people expect, and she does what she usually does in these Rumble situations, which is make it all the way to the end and win this time, and then we get a championship match between her and whomever wins between Rhea and Io. It just makes a lot of sense to me because they're going to get this back.
Before we get into the main events, I have to say I was so happy to see the Sheamus and Rusev match last night. It finally seemed like they finally got somebody that can step up with Sheamus and
Super banger.
wrestle pound for pound. That was one of the best matches I've seen in a long time.
Mhm.
Most definitely, out of both of them. Now, we already know Sheamus can go, but I think it was, like you said, somebody that really seems like you don't know which way this is going to go. I mean, they beat the crap out of each other all night as far as the time that they got on TV, and it was very intense. I got to say, it was a throwback to those days when before they were aligned in the League of Nations. And it made you really look at some subtle changes. Instead of Rusev yelling Machka or whatever after or whatnot, it's the over thing now. He's still playing this redeemer type of character that he was in AEW, which I think was a great look for him, but without all the copyright issues. I hope to see more of this develop. And I don't think this is done. I think they're going to run this back about 2 or 3 times, maybe a best of 7 series. And then they end up on a tag team, much like how him and Cesaro did. You know what I mean? These things kind of happen with Sheamus.
Do you
He
think that they
brings the
somehow
best out of
pulled
people.
in all of Alpha Academy too, who have been absolutely just left out for
I'm
nothing?
glad you mentioned Alpha Academy in the Chad Gable situation. We now see Ludwig Kaiser donning the mask
yeah.
of El
Gotta be
Grande
living, right?
America.
I've never seen
I was
nothing
like, how did this man just grow 2 feet?
And honestly,
And
What
walking
kind of
over.
hormones is he on?
him being in the background of the attack last week makes a lot of sense now. You
Yeah,
have him
and
donning the mask of El Grande, but I think
and
it's
he
gonna
was
be
lurking
great.
in the background of the interview as well. So
Yes, he was.
hey, hats off to the writing staff. I think that's a
It-
little bit of Road Dog right there, writing
Yes,
that.
it is.
I
That's
think
old
that's
school
Road Dog's
wrestling
writing
right
right there.
Real quick before we let you go, I let you know this before, and I know I talked to you about this earlier, Sparky, but we want to do a little bit of something different with these wrestling segments as well. There's a show right now, I believe it's on A&E, that's called LFG that WWE does, which is their future greats and wrestlers that they are kind of showing a little early in the development of this entire thing through a competitive show. And
Yes,
this is now
indeed.
season 2 of that show. All 3 of us are fans of said show. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to do our own draft of these WWE future stars, and whomever gets the closest of winning is going to somehow, we're going to make it happen that we're going to have fans of the show text in of who you guys believe team's going to win. If you are correct, we're going to hook you up with some sort of maybe a t-shirt or something. Like we'll find some sort of way to benefit the winner of all of this. But I
better
wanted
watch
to
it.
incorporate all, but you haven't watched that.
I haven't watched season 2 yet.
Oh, well, I mean, it's the same roster as season 1 outside of a couple, including a former Dolphin, Trill London, who used to play for the Dolphins. I'm just throwing that out there.
Laces out.
So
Yeah.
I will let the 2 of you decide first before I choose mine. But KG, we'll start with you. Who would you decide right now is going to be the winners of season 2 of WWE's LFG?
Well, I would have to say my guy who I had my eye on season 1, who was missing the tooth.
Ah, you took him from me. I knew it. I
But
knew you were going to
but I can't remember his name. Oh God.
And you can't. No, don't tell him.
Yeah, no, because
No, if you can't remember the guy,
he's got it in really
I'm
good.
sorry.
Hey, I just started watching the show. Unlike Sparky, I'm trying to keep up with everything. But let me tell you this: the obvious
Fine.
pick would be him, the obvious one, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go for the obvious one. I'm going to go for Evander Holyfield Jr.
Oh,
which might surprise people because Evander Holyfield has a couple sons. You know what I mean? Most of them have taken up some
I
type
think
of
his name is
sports.
Elijah.
Elijah.
I think it's
Holyfield.
Elijah
Yeah.
Holyfield.
That's what
Yeah.
I was going to think.
So I expect some because you can build a lot off of him just as a person alone.
Yes,
And
you
if you
can.
want to take that away and just give him a character and see what he can do with that, I think that he might have the get up and
He's-
go juice to make it happen because he's a great
He's got
athlete.
a natural aggression too from his
Yeah.
father, that it looks great. He
So, yeah.
reminds me a lot of Mr. T in A-Team.
You
Like,
know,
he has
hey,
that
I was about to
brooding-
say
I
he
know they
looked like
made that
he'd
joke
tune
in
somebody
season
up.
1, but it's right on the cusp. Who's your female, real quick?
I haven't looked at any of the female prospects yet that I would actually select nor remember the names of right now. But when we
Oh,
bring
see,
this
you're messing
back
up.
up, when
You're
we bring
messing
this
up.
back
All right,
up,
all right,
I
all
will
right.
have
Next
one.
week, I'll let you pick your female.
Well, I'm taking Anthony. If
We
he's
to
going to
Anthony
take
Luke?
Holyfield, I'm going to take Anthony. And
Shiloh, that was his name. There we go.
I
Hey,
don't care.
but that's not my pick. Yeah, but that's not my pick. I
You
just
already took
it hit me.
Leave
Yeah,
my boy
yeah.
alone. That's
I got
mine.
Holyfield. I got
I'll take
Holyfield.
Anthony Luke. I wanted Holyfield, but I would be happy with that. And also, I'll take Zena.
Xena. Okay, that's a good one. Bubba Ray's prodigy. That's
I love
from
that lady, dude.
Ukraine.
She grew on me.
She won me over.
I did not like
Yeah.
her in the beginning,
She
but
won
she
me
grew on
over
me.
in season 2.
I
will
haven't
let
seen
you
enough.
choose your female next week, Mr. KG, since we're already running out of time. I'm going to go with Shiloh Hill, as I said earlier, because I've been a big fan of Shiloh Hill during his football days playing for Stanford, as well as his social media stuff. I've already told you guys.
Oh
what
yeah, he's
doing on
hilarious.
that. He's great when it comes to the dark web stuff, and he's very informative too, if you're ever into that kind of thing. And
Check
then my
your boot heels, people. Check your boot heels.
absolutely. And from the female, I am going to go with Panina. I'm going to go with P Nasty, the Samoan that is just she won me over in this that's what she calls herself, bro.
Hey,
Who's
why
another part of the-
why do I feel like I'm about to see like another Fatu or something?
She
and they're
is.
just
That's
part of
why
the
I'm
family.
taking
crap
it,
out of
dude. I'm
people.
telling you right now, she won me over from episode 1 of last year. She was Booker T's girl last year, and she made it all the way to the finals. Probably should have been in the final.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to come down to those two. I think Shiloh and Panina are going to be your winners this year for season 2.
Well, folks, we'll be keeping an eye and an ear to LFG.
Well, enjoy your holiday weekend, KG. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, you guys take care. Happy holidays. God bless America and God bless you guys, man. We'll have plenty of more wrestling talk next week. And yeah, sensational. Holla at your
All right,
boy.
brother. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you next week. We got to take a break and pay some bills. We have a ton of breaking news in the NBA right now that is going on, including with a lot of players for the Bucks. So we'll let you know what's going on the other side of this break. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield.
Before anybody knows,
Oh my God.
yes, this is the Baywatch theme song. It's because
Why?
my first love, Emma Anderson,
It's her birthday?
it's her birthday today.
You know what? I echo that sentiment. That was one of my biggest crushes, bro.
My mom was probably spitting out her coffee this morning, but she knows my whole 7th grade, my whole room was Pamela Anderson
Oh, you
everywhere.
must have hated Tommy Lee.
Oh yeah, I did, and I still
You
do.
must have hated Tommy. We got some breaking news to tell you guys
All
all
sorts
about.
of it.
So the NBA is in full swing. The Bucks have made two major moves. First, they have decided to waive Damian Lillard and are stretching the remaining $113 million on his contract.
Genius.
In order to sign former Pacers center Miles Turner to a 4-year, $107 million deal. The Bucks have wow. If this is something that I can honestly say I did not see coming, them waiving Damian Lillard is huge, putting Dame back on the board for anybody who wants to make a move at this. This is incredible because this also means they are willing to make drastic moves to keep Giannis in Milwaukee. I would assume that this is going to be the first of a couple different moves you're going to see Milwaukee make today in order to keep this team together and keep Giannis at least interested in sticking around.
He's not going anywhere now.
Yeah,
I
don't.
bet.
Again, well, this entire thing started though because he wanted Dame on the team.
Yeah, but obviously with health concerns and
Yeah, I mean, again, it definitely has not worked out. He is. The relationship between Dame and the team probably was fine, but his health, like you said, is really what deterred them from sticking around. This is just a wild move after 2 years with the team. I mean, I don't know exactly where he's going now. He's rehabbing from a torn Achilles, so I highly doubt anybody touches him until is somewhat done with that surgery in early May. Or I'm sorry, he went through surgery in early May, so until he's done healing from that surgery from early May is what I meant. It is, I don't know. This could be a big pickup for a lot of different teams right now who need a point guard, including maybe your Los Angeles Lakers.
I was just thinking that if he can come back late in the season.
I'm just saying, this is a big name acquisition. Now, you're going to have to put down a lot of money to have him come play for you, but it could be worth it if he comes back anywhere close to as good as he was. I mean, Damian Lillard to me is still a top point guard in the league. And for Milwaukee to just move on like this it's wild to me. That is an incredible development. And I can't wait to see what their plan is going forward, because you have to have a dang good plan to keep Giannis around if this is the next step in said plan.
And other news, just breaking, the tight end, Darren Waller, who was said he was retiring I mean, a lot of players will do that when you play for the Giants.
Yep.
He said he's coming out of retirement to play for the Miami Dolphins a day after they traded Jonnu Smith to the Steelers. The Dolphins are trading a conditional 2026 sixth rounder to the Giants and they get a 7th rounder back.
A conditional 6th rounder too. So that doesn't mean they for sure get that pick from you. That's a solid trade too if you're a Miami Dolphin fan.
Waller agreed to do a 1-year deal with the Dolphins worth up to $5 million. So
that's a bargain.
That's a hell of a pickup for Miami. Now they can hopefully, bring in some cornerback help.
I mean, do you think that this could potentially be a good filler for what Jonnu was for you guys last year?
Oh yeah, he's a big boy. And I mean, as long as he can check the attitude, I think it'll be good. I mean, it'll be good for him and Tua. But having receivers like Tyreek and Waddle on each side, that will definitely help, having a big tight end like that.
I mean, especially if you're thinking fantasy football wise, this might not be the worst pickup for you this year, because Darren was a stud fantasy football.
I heard a lot from fans yesterday that were trying to check themselves because Jonnu had a major year for Miami last year, which was injury prone, and Tua missed a lot of time last year and several other years, but Jonnu under this coordinator with the Steelers, I know he's been with Jonnu in several different packages.
Yes.
But I did hear Schefter this morning talking about, Jonnu was averaging 500-600 yards under this coaching. So we'll see what that turns out to be in Pittsburgh. I mean, they obviously have better weapons than what he did in Tennessee, but we'll see.
I'm assuming that they're going to move on from Pat Fryermuth.
That's what I thought too.
I'm not sure why, but it just something to me. You drafted a tight end in the 3rd round who's a solid tight end for you, unless they really don't see him panning out. But I know Arthur loves his multi-tight end formations, especially the 2 tight end formation, which is why I assumed that you were going to keep Fryermuth and maybe Jonnu Smith. But the more I talk to fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the more I'm hearing that they really enjoy this rookie kid that they're developing right now. So not sure exactly what the plan is for Arthur Smith in this offense. I'm very curious myself, but then again, we talked about it a couple of days ago. That's even if you have a quarterback that can sustainably run and make this offense look good. I know Aaron is very athletic, or at least was pre-injury. We still have yet to see if he can do that post-injury. So if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan right now, I know you're hopeful, especially on the defensive side of things, because obviously the Ramsey trade and you've got Darius Slay coming in. I think that you're probably going to make a move for someone like Justin Simmons here in the next couple of weeks as well to fill that free agency need. Or I'm sorry, the free safety need, I should say. But the big question that still is looming and everybody has yet to have an answer to is TJ Watt.
TJ Watt.
Are you going to get TJ back? Is TJ even willing to play for you after all of this in like the contract negotiations? I say yes. I'm not saying that he hates playing in Pittsburgh, but to come in and not get the number you're hoping for, especially being a franchise cornerstone player. I mean, do you really think Myles Garrett had to complain and get his money? Probably not. Cleveland, but I mean, then again, Cleveland's the last team that I should be comparing this to because they'll throw money at anybody.
It's the same thing with Hendrickson. We're still waiting, and they haven't signed Hendrickson or their 1st-round draft pick.
And they're not going to.
You don't think so?
Well, the 1st-round draft pick, Shamar will most likely get his. I don't think Trey gets his money. I think they end up moving on from Trey Hendrickson, which is the dumbest move in the world. Don't get me wrong. But it's just what Cincinnati has boiled into. I know they were talking about it on Good Morning Football right above my head here yesterday. How do they avoid doing the slow start that they're so known to be?
Yeah.
And honestly, you're not making the right moves to do that, in my opinion, because no matter what you do in bringing back your offensive game, or at least your 2 receivers and your quarterback, you still didn't beef up an offensive line. You still haven't saved your defense anything. And honestly, you taking away the best part of that defense is going to just make you worse. So I think you're going to not only see a slow start from the Bengals, but you're going to see a slow year. Granted, for fantasy football fans, 100% grab Jamar and Joe Burrow because he's going to be throwing 95% of the game because they're going to be down every minute of that game. And they have no intention of changing that because they really have no intention of paying defensive players or making this a defensive team. I think that their moves, or at least their intention, is to make this a offensively driven team, and they believe they can win a Super Bowl that way. I don't think you can, but for some reason, the city of Cincinnati believes that you can win a Super Bowl with just a quarterback and 2 receivers. Let's see. It's a bold prediction, Cotton, but let's see if they're right.
Yep. Well, we'll take our final break. We've got several texts to go over, a couple from Steeler fans. Plus, we'll keep you updated with these breaking news from the NBA, NFL, and all over right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 AM.
101.1 FM. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. Final
We're
segment of the
rolling
day.
in.
Good. Before we get to those text messages, though, I have one last thing to anger boxing fans about. Just after I was talking about this yesterday, coming across ESPN right now, but Jake Paul has now been announced as he is the number 14th boxer in the world by the World Boxing Association. Top 15. How do you feel now?
It's
In the
perfect.
world
He deserves it.
by the WBA. Dude, I'm telling you right now, after that fight against Chavez, I could see it. He's gaining the respect of the boxers. I know there's a lot of fighters out there that are always going to be like, oh, he's a YouTuber. I can whoop his, I can beat him up no matter what. I get in the ring with him then.
Yep.
Let's see it.
Prove it.
Prove it. I am starting to get to that point. This kid, although it is a inconvenient way to do so, has worked his way up to the top 15 in the boxing world. That's pretty impressive as for a YouTuber. That's all I got to say about that. And if he is the draw of boxing, get on board or get out.
Yep.
That's exactly where we're headed. So let's hear some of these text messages.
The first one says, Jonnu Smith, Emmitt Smith, doesn't matter. Ravens are running that division.
100%, 110%. It matters
I
not.
said the same
Matters
thing.
not. But I mean, Jonnu Smith is still really cool to cheer for, and I
Yeah.
hope he does well. Well, whether he will be the second or third or fifth tight end for Pittsburgh, I
Mhm.
don't know. That's just Arthur Smith and how he runs a team.
And I'm sure we'll be getting into a lot more of that tomorrow as well. Back to wrestling. Another one says, I want Stephanie Vaquer versus Rhea after Evolution. And Jordan Grace is getting the NXT at Evolution 2.0.
100%. She eventually is going to get a title run with that NXT championship. I cannot stand that JC Jane has that chip right now after doing nothing to deserve it. It bugs me to my core, but they had to give it to somebody. And for some reason, they figured JC deserved a shot because she's been there for so long. So,
And this one's going back to our BYU story. It says, you guys didn't know that about BYU. It says BYU suspended a player during the NCAA tournament in basketball a few years ago.
oh, no. I knew this was a clause. Don't get me wrong. I knew this was a thing.
I didn't.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that it's a thing. Don't get me wrong. I think in today's society, it's ridiculous to hold anybody accountable for religious views or lack of holding or living up to them. It's just ridiculous. We're all human. We're all going to do what we need to do to survive.
And
Just
this
let
one
it go.
said, yes, I'm a Mormon, and they are very strict. I
Yep.
have no problem with them suspending him 7 games. He knew the rules and broke them.
I mean, that's fair. Again, long and short of it, he broke the rules. No one's denying that. I'm just saying a 7-game suspension's a little excessive. Just a little bit.
Well, now you
Just a little bit.
You
But
put your foot down and you lost your quarterback.
it really doesn't matter. He's not going to play for you next season anyway. He's transferring out, so he won't have to serve that 7-game suspension. Really does not matter. So at the end of the day.
And
but-
some side news, Rodney Harrison is headed to the Chargers Hall of
Yes.
Fame.
I'm glad we got to this story because I wanted to throw this out, at least to you or to our listeners, if they could text him before we get out of here. But do you remember Rodney Harrison when he played for the Chargers?
I always
remember
think of him in the Patriots.
Same. Like, don't get me wrong. Not that he doesn't deserve to be there. Obviously, he was a big cornerstone for the Chargers defense for a long time.
But spent 9 of his 15 years with the Chargers.
I know. And that's why I'm like, that's what makes me wonder why I can't remember him in a Chargers uniform very well. Like, I just remember him with the Patriots for the most part. Maybe it's because those are the years, obviously, he won a ring and he was part of the Brady era and stuff like that. But I don't know why. I just can't picture him in a Chargers uniform. When I read that yesterday, I was like, why is he getting honored by oh, that's right. He played the majority of his career there. I'm just
And
being
good for
dumb.
him. Good for him. He gets he's the 36th Charger to be in that Ring of Honor.
That's awesome.
And Netflix also dropped the trailer for another sequel to America's Team. This one will be The Gambler and the Cowboys, an 8-episode series performing August 19th. That'll talk about Jerry Jones transforming the Cowboys.
Here's a question to Cowboy fans, and I know a lot of you listen because I know we have a ton here in Bakersfield. Do you guys like this? Like, I understand that playing for the Dallas Cowboys at a certain level is a spectacle, and honestly, I mean, you have tours running through your locker room while you're working out. Obviously, you are seen as more of a gladiator or entertainer than any other player on any other team in the NFL. But when it comes down to documentaries like this or docu-series like this that kind of show the darker or worse side of the Dallas Cowboys and how they treat some of these people. Do y'all like this? Like, or are you kind of in the same place as I? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, if the Falcons kept having documentary after documentary after documentary come out about how they're run and how crooked it can get, or how their cheerleaders were underpaid 400% for God knows how long, like I would start to hate it a little bit. It kind of seems like they're just doing it just to spite Jerry a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong. I know the Robert Kraft one came out too, and that one didn't make the Kraft family look good at all.
No.
But like, it just the more and more these come out, and the more your team, or at least your owners, in the limelight, at least in my opinion, I wouldn't be okay with this. I wouldn't want anybody to watch this.
No, and on top of that, I mean, we talked about the Cowboys' first one with the cheerleaders that got them paid finally.
Yeah.
The second one is going to
and it took till season 2.
Put some shade on Jerry on this one, I'm sure. I finally watched the Favre one, which I wasn't a Favre fan.
That
but now
one I'm
really,
cool with. Like, look, if you do individual players and stuff that they did during their careers that we all know about, that is what it is.
The shooting guard one was awesome. But now, not only do we get the Hard Knocks version of the offseason, now the in season, now we get another series of the quarterbacks, another second, third season of that.
And we've seen how dangerous that can be, especially with Hard Knocks. I mean, I'm still surprised that GM has a job, but New York has held on to him because
I can't believe that.
I thought for sure before minicamp we were going to hear that GM was fired, and maybe Brian Dable too. But the fact that they held on to him, I guess, shows some sort of loyalty to your workforce. I don't get it, but we'll see after this season, I guess.
I was talking to my brother because he's a Dolphin fan as well. So I was talking yesterday. I was like, who are we going to go? Because we need a tight end now. And, I kind of felt when Jonnu was pushing for money after one good year, I was like, that's not the Miami way. He's not going to pay him.
No,
they're not going to pay him.
But in Jonnu's defense, he had multiple good years back to back just for separate teams.
Yeah. But in Miami, how they're paying the receiving core, I was like, you're going to play out your contract. You're gone, brother.
Ain't no way you're getting paid.
So we were thinking Mayer from the Raiders, maybe Pitts from Atlanta. So this curveball with Darren Waller, which we'll see if he can bring the attitude. But
I hope it works out for y'all. I really do.
But I did save your text about TJ Watt. We'll make sure to get into those tomorrow live from 7 to 9 a.m.
Absolutely. Join us, won't you? And you can watch us as well on YouTube at the Early Bird Special. Go follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're all over Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook as well. But until then, we will see you tomorrow morning at 7. We got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. Sparky, let's get out of here.
KGEO, ESPN Bakersfield, 12.